AI is changing the world in a way no one could have anticipated even a few years ago. And I am in the business of investing in AI stocks. And over the last 2 years, I came to a conclusion. The world is changing so much that we can now actually get to that point to generate high universal income from AI stocks. That is a very bold claim. And I am willing to bet $1 million of my own money on the ability of us here at Pioneer Alpha to make 30% over the next 3 years every single year. Now, this is not a promise of future returns. This is not a solicitation. This is an announcement for all of you guys to follow what I'm doing, and we'll talk about this every single week. But first, let's discuss why and what is behind this whole plan. So I prepared something here for you guys, and please follow me in this video where I explain what is going on here. When we talk about AI, I make it very quick. This is Vera Rubin, the new NVDA chip. This is Jensen Huang. This is the biggest company in the world now, and it wasn't even 3 years ago. NVIDIA is the backbone of this entire revolution. It's one of my favorite stocks, but an even better stock, of course, in my opinion, is Tesla. And you know all about it. On this channel, we are about Tesla, the robotaxi rollout, how it revolutionizes the world, and how we can actually time and schedule these run-ups if you're good. You can follow me every day while I'm doing that. And I do YouTube just to get better at my predictions because it creates accountability for myself. That's what we are doing here. And of course, ultimately, this crazy vision that's now forming with SpaceX going to the moon, building Moonbase Alpha. I was not involved in finding that name, just happens to be Moonbase Alpha, matching Pioneer Alpha, of course. And Tesla becoming the world's largest chip manufacturer, competing with NVIDIA. So the circle here closes. And as you all know, I've been working on the Pioneer Alpha strategy for quite a while and share this with everyone here. Pioneer Alpha, we predict the future to outperform the market. So far, that has worked very well. We'll look into performance in a second. But just to summarize, we do one of the best research in the world, in my opinion. Of course, I'm biased. Into these 6 areas. Artificial intelligence. That is NVIDIA. That is the LLMs, Anthropic, ChatGPT and so on, OpenAI, Grok. Autonomous transport with Tesla, the leader. Humanoid robots, again, Tesla the leader with Optimus, the space economy with SpaceX being the leader and together with Tesla doing that, AGI Capital, Robinhood, Coinbase, the crypto revolution that is directly linked into the AI revolution in finance, tokenization of everything, Ethereum at the center, connecting to artificial intelligence and creating this amazing new financial ecosystem with enormous upside for the stocks. And of course, my secret weapon, we are also macro analysts. Because we understand that we cannot predict the future without understanding geopolitics, Iran, Ukraine, Trump, and all the things that enrage people all day long. But we take a cold look at these things to understand what it does to the markets. So that is kind of our secret super weapon, that we combine these things. And then, of course, we operationalize that through a bunch of things I'm not going to go into here too much. You know all about it. We then predict the future, put it on timelines, and use options. From short churn strategies, selling short puts out of the money in periods where this makes sense, or going into leaps with alpha roll when the stocks drop too much and we want to have huge upside without margin risk. I'm not going into these technicalities, but that all led to the performance we are seeing. And let's talk about the performance a little bit. Why I'm willing to make that bet. We've done this now for 2 years and a quarter. Since January 1st, 2024, I started really focusing on the strategy and building it out. And here's the results. Looking pretty good. Since inception, we've made 106%. That's a 45% alpha over Tesla. So let me explain what that means. If you put $1 million into Pioneer Alpha in January 2024, now it would be $2,060,000. If you would have put the entire amount, 1 million, into Tesla, you would be at 1.6 million. So that is much less. That is $450,000 less than with Pioneer Alpha, despite us focusing on Tesla. Because of these strategies that we can leverage Tesla. But of course, we used NVIDIA, we used MicroStrategy, and so on and so forth. Robinhood was part of the portfolio. Now let's look at year to date. Nice performance. We are up 6.12%. Tesla is down 10.92%. So we outperformed Tesla just in 2026 so far until April, mid of April, with 17% alpha. That's pretty good. And if you look at other benchmarks here, You can check this all out on Pioneer Reserve, by the way. You see here, we outperformed the S&P with even 2% year to date. Over a 6 month period, much more, 8% outperformance over the S&P, 7% outperformance, and so on and so forth. Since inception, similar outperformance of the Nasdaq and the S&P as Tesla. So I'm going to stop now. I just want to explain why I'm so bold of taking my own money and making these bets. I've done this now long enough. Well, I've done it for nearly 18 years. I've been trading this whole thing in 2020, very good year, obviously, with Tesla. But this strategy specifically, this refined strategy, where I put all my effort and my experience into this, from options to these AI stock predictions, tech stock predictions, that is what we are tracking since January 2024, and it works pretty well. Okay, so you all followed me, you know my channel. We did this every day now for all of 2025, not every day in 2024, but that's where it all started with YouTube. I had a lot of fun talking to all of you guys on YouTube, on X. We have over 85,000 followers now. Thank you, by the way, everyone, for subscribing. 85,000 people is a lot. A lot of you are super sophisticated. We have many institutional investors even. We have banking analysts. We have, of course, the entire cyber bull crowd watching. And I really appreciate the discussions we have on X about Elon, about SpaceX, about Tesla, all these things. And of course, when I started sharing these websites and the weekly returns, sometimes daily returns, including throughout the crises when we are not looking so good, I got a lot of questions from you guys, right? People asked me, Joe, can we invest with you? This is all too much for me. This is so exhausting. Why don't you just take my money and invest? And I couldn't, because I have my own money. I'm trading my own money. But I thought about it since last year, since July 2025, and started tinkering about it. And here's my quick take before we go into the bet, what the bet is and why is it a new instrument underlying the bet. I was thinking about, can't I just do something for you guys where we combine our capital and actually I trade my capital and your capital together, for those of you who want to. And I decided very quickly I don't want to do a fund, because funds are boring. I'm too old for this stuff. I don't want to start something, be stressed out, like for what? For making money? No, thank you. I make enough money trading my own money. But I had a different idea. And this different idea was, we are building here pioneer lands. We are living through the most insane period in human history. And one of the central problems, if not the central problem of this age, is the question, I can share this website here, is the question how we actually turn the AI revolution into steady high income. Okay, people don't want to have this crazy stock exposure. They don't want to go up and down like on a crazy roller coaster. And so I was thinking about, can we actually design a new financial instrument here? And I put my own money into that instrument and offer it to qualified investors in the United States and EU and Canada and UK and Switzerland. Can we actually build something that helps us all prototype and get closer to that magic point in time where we can take the upside of this insane revolution and turn it into a steady stream of high income? This is not a promise. This is describing what is behind this whole strategy. And let me share something with you. I want to share something with you. And here is what you're seeing. This is not real portfolio performance. This is just a simulated performance, a typical performance of a portfolio that roughly reflects or approximates, a little more extreme, but approximates what could happen. Okay. Just as an example, let's say you have an AGI portfolio and you're in a very good year. Maybe it's 2026, maybe it's 2027, and your portfolio goes up 78%. You're very happy. I'm very happy. But then the next year hits, you go down 8%. And then year 3 happens, you go up 29%, and then you go up 35%. So this is could be a typical scenario, okay? And here you see the problem. In year 1, everyone is happy. But what do you tell your wife or your partner, or your husband, who is less risk, has less of a risk appetite in year 2? They will not be interested that you did great in year 1. They will ask, honey, we put $2 million into this thing. Why did you lose $160,000 while everyone else was going up? Are you nuts? Take the money out. And then you're losing on the next 2 years. So in other words, volatility is not good. So what we designed here is actually something very interesting. I call it a pioneer bond. because it is a bond. It is not a fund. And that bond works with a buffer mechanism, where in the end, this is actually the same return as this here in this example. You make the same return in the end, but you have a bond that actually caps you at 30%. In year one, puts it into a buffer and then feeds it back. I can show you how this actually looks like with a very quick example here. This is the buffer mechanism. And here, down here, you see the actual buffer. This is actually the real buffer of the Pioneer bond that we designed. And we are running that simulation based on the real portfolio. And what you see here is the portfolio performance, the blue. And here you see the bond inflows and outflows. So the blue is actually the buffer, how much is in the buffer. And here you see the returns. Here you see the smoothened return curve. I hope that's not complex. So here you see what the bond actually did since mid of last year, since we started doing that, simulating this bond on the real portfolio, Pioneer Alpha portfolio, with the mechanism that we now institutionalized. And you see that magic happening. The blue line is the real appreciation of the simulated bond based on the actual Pioneer Alpha portfolio. So the first weeks were a little more difficult. So we lost some money here. But you see, even in the third month, we were already up 5.5%. And then we continue going up between this channel here. This is the channel line. Long story short, we are now up 27%, not even a year in. We have a CAGR of 35.4%. So 35.4% on this Pioneer bond simulation. And that was enough for me to say, okay, let's kick this off and generate something that is, as you can see here on the blue line, much more reliable every single week, except for the first 6 weeks. We were going up while the world was not going up. And I want to show you a benchmark, S&P 500, for example. Look at this. Look at this. Just let that sink in. Since the inception of that simulated bond based on the real Pioneer Alpha portfolio, look how the blue line performed. That would be the money of investors who would have been in this bond. I was in this bond, in the simulated bond, based on the real portfolio. Look at this. Massive alpha. You see actually here the alpha year to date over S&P, 5.4% better than the market, 3.5% better than the NASDAQ, 3.4% better than the MSCI World, and 8.1% better than ARK. And that is just since the beginning of the year. Since inception, since July 2025, much better. And so here you see that line, that's the S&P. Let's go to the NASDAQ. NASDAQ looks similar. This is the NASDAQ. Same story. The bond outperforms it, not just outperforms it, but does it in an extremely steady way. Look at this, is the Dow Jones, the little sucker here. Look at how we outperformed with this bond simulation, the S&P, the Dow Jones. And then here you have Tesla. No, Tesla's not in here. Let's take ARK. Here's ARK, more extreme, right? Outperforming the bond in the beginning, then crashing badly in the crisis and now catching up again. So who knows where it all ends up? Maybe some of these things can, in the end or in the middle of the year, outperform the bond, but who cares? The bond is here to constantly make money. That is what I'm seeing and what we engineered. We have a beautiful team in Luxembourg. This thing is based in Luxembourg, but accessible in the United States, in the UK, in Canada, in Switzerland, and of course in the EU. On pioneeralpha.org, everyone can learn more if you're interested in this. It's for qualified investors only. What that means, basically means people with a critical amount of money, depending on your jurisdiction, not crazy amounts of money, but some money. So it's not for the average retail investor. That is because of some regulations in each of these regions. If you're American, you probably have heard about accredited investors. So this is only for accredited investors in the United States. But we made this bond now available as a real thing. Now, let's get to my bet. What is my bet and what am I planning here to do? Very simple. It's very simple. Here is our webpage, pioneeralpha.org. There is a regional gating. So you have to first, if you go to this website, you can only see the content once you actually qualify yourself. That is important. If you can't qualify yourself, you can't see it. So basically, the structure is it's directly linked to Pioneer Alpha AI portfolio, right? The portfolio that I'm managing. It's capped at 45% CAGR, so you cannot make more than 45% as an investor in this per year, 3 times the money in 3 years. And it's professionally structured in Luxembourg as a securitization vehicle with audit and oversight and everything you get. That's why we chose Luxembourg. Here's my commitment. I'm going to put $1 million into this thing of my own money. So I will be very likely the largest investor because we don't have too much time. We're closing this in the next 10 days because we need to get the first series out. So let's see. But 1 million of my own money is in there. Of that 1 million, most importantly, and here's my exact bet, why this is such a big deal, 800,000 goes into Pioneer Alpha. So I will be a standard investor, identical terms to everyone else. If Pioneer Alpha loses money, I will lose money at the same rate with these 800,000. But more importantly, I will put up $200,000 as a reserve buffer. What does this reserve buffer do? I will tell you one more slide here. This is how the bond would look like without a reserve buffer in the simulation. With the reserve buffer, it's perfect. It's 30% constantly in the simulation, not a guarantee based on the portfolio. If the portfolio loses money, the bond also loses money. But if the portfolio performs here, according to this is a simulation. There's many other scenarios, but we took this scenario. This is how we get to perfectly 30% a year. Because we put in a start buffer that also comes out as the end buffer. So it's not being used in the end. And at that rate, I'm not losing any money. But this buffer I'm putting in, $200,000 of my own money. And this is official, by the way, this video. This is the real deal. $200,000 of my own money is this buffer. And this buffer will be gone. I will not see that money again if the bond does not make 30% per year over the next 3 years. Every single year, or at least an average every single year. If we come out below 30% CAGR, and there are no fees under 30% CAGR, by the way, other than operational expenses, and I'm not getting paid by that. So there's no trick here. I'm not putting money in and putting it back into my pocket on the other side. I'm not getting a cent here under 30%. And if we perform under 30%, my money is gone. This 200,000. The 800,000 I just lose or underperform prorated as a normal investor, but the 200,000 are fully at risk. And this is my bet. This is a clear-cut bet. Under 30%, I'm not seeing that money again unless we make a little bit under 30% and I don't need to put in the whole 200,000. And the 200,000 will grow and shrink with the portfolio, right? So this 200,000 is not guaranteed to offset the 30% in full because, for example, if the portfolio goes down 10%, the 200,000 also go down and become 180,000 and then will be injected into that as returns for the investor and then is gone. That is the exact mechanics. So the buffer is trading with the portfolio, but if at the settlement points every quarter we stay under 30%, that money gets eaten up and is gone. So that tells you a little bit that I am confident. Of course, this is never a guarantee. No one knows. Of course, I can lose the money. Everyone can lose money here. But this tells you what I'm thinking about the future. I'm willing to put up my own money here, bet 200,000, let's see what happens. So that is my message for this video. We have a closing date coming up. The closing date will be end of April, where we actually sign this all in and start trading. We need to rush it a little bit now because we want to build the track record quickly. There are more, even bigger things to come, hopefully end of the year. And we need to get this going to also fine tune everything in Luxembourg. And with that, we become institutional investors as we speak. So I hope you enjoyed that little message from me. Now you know the bet. You can follow me every day. We will update this weekly on the performance as we did so far. Maybe not every single week, but we are trying to get to it weekly. And I think we are off to the races now to build the world's most important thing in infrastructure aimed at turning AGI and the tremendous upside of AGI into a steady, high stream of income. That is our mission. And as I said, it's not a guarantee. Nothing is guaranteed in life, especially not financial returns. But it is our mission, and I'm dedicated to this mission. And this year shows you a little bit what I'm willing to risk. I hope that was interesting. If you don't follow me yet, please subscribe and like this. If you're interested, go to pioneeralpha.org. You will see all the details there. Check everything out. Let me know if I can help you with anything on X, DM me. And even if it's not about investing, always happy to chat with everyone. I will keep you updated on this. I hope that was interesting and see you tomorrow.